Welcome to Poets Have Something to Say. We're going to call this a special edition. It certainly is. This is breaking news that Green Bay has named their first ever poet laureate, and we're thrilled to have Miriam Brabham on the show, and she joins us from Milwaukee, where there's a poetry marathon going on. Um, and welcome to the show, Miriam.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us a bit. It sounds like there are workshops in the works, public readings. You're focusing on amplifying young voices through partnerships and mentorship. What an exciting time. Tell us about what it was like to apply for the Green Bay Poet Laureate. And again, congratulations. And tell us about the process a bit.
Wonderful. Yeah. So the process was that I had seen that the city was looking for a poet laureate, and I applied through that city portal, and it was through the Green Bay Public Arts Commission. And it was a two-step process where you applied, and there were 14 applicants. And then out of those applicants, they had 5 finalists. And those finalists were asked to provide a project proposal. And then the project proposal was considered, reviewed, and they chose a poet laureate from there.
That's so very exciting. So, what are your first plans? I understand you're at a poetry marathon today.
I am, yes.
What is a poetry marathon?
So, Woodland Pattern is a poetry organization that I actually was just introduced to like earlier this past week. Um, that holds poetry marathons. This is actually their 32nd marathon that they're holding, but they have grown so much that they can't hold it at their regular um, space. They are holding it at the St. Kate's Art Hotel in Milwaukee. And it's just a great space to hold this event in because there's so many different mediums of art happening here. So there's 24 hours of poetry, and every hour is dedicated to um, different demographics or affinities. And so, like, there's a poet laureate hour, there was a youth hour, and they're hosted by different poets, authors, people involved with Woodland Pattern. And then there are different poets that come up during that hour to perform and present. So, in the hour that I presented yesterday, there was the poet laureate for the state of Wisconsin, the poet laureate for Milwaukee, and several former poet laureates for Milwaukee and Madison as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we've had the Wisconsin Poet Laureate on our show a couple of months ago. She's really impressive.
She's amazing. It was fantastic to be in space with her and all of the other people that were in that room, even not just the stage, but here you can literally feel the energy buzzing as there were so many poets that were just around. There was just creativity everywhere you looked.
Okay, and if you just joined the feed, it's a special edition of Poets Have Something to Say. Green Bay has named their first poet laureate, and thanks again for being part of our show, our special edition. Tell us, I like to ask this to everybody that I interview. When did you first realize you were a poet, and how did that evolve?
I would say I first realized I was a poet like a few years ago, actually, not
Hmm.
any long time ago. I have written poetry
Mm-hmm.
for a pretty decent segment of my life. And there was intervention from teachers and whatnot when I was a
Mm-hmm.
youth, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see myself as a poet.
Yeah.
I always kind of saw it as separate, being able to write poetry and being a poet. But as I began to write my book, um, I started to see that what I was doing was more than just writing poetry, that I was a poet. And I think that that was because my book was such a collaborative effort. Even though I wrote it, there were
Mm-hmm.
so many people that were involved in like encouraging me in seeing myself in a different light. Oh, you should do this, or you should include that, or make sure you put that in your book. That's really creative, or that's a great thought that you had. And those are things that I would have never thought of on my own because I didn't see merit or value in them
Mm-hmm.
initially.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's so many dedications in my book, because I don't think that you have to limit dedicating a book to just one dedication. So there were like, I don't know, maybe 10 dedications that I put in my book all throughout, dedicating poems or sections to different people that had helped influence that. But yeah, I guess I had always this distinction between being a poet and someone who could write poetry.
So we have about 500 followers and growing here on my YouTube site. How would you tell those folks how to get the book? I'm sure there's a lot of people that would want to get your book.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's A Thousand Apologies to Me. It's a collection of poetry, short stories, and reflections. And yeah, I also have like my physical copies if people are in that Green Bay, Appleton area, that I'm always available for that as well. And I'm looking at some other platforms, but right now it's just Amazon for digital.
Are there, you mentioned this just briefly. I wanted to touch upon this. Who are your mentors? Who's shaping your voice or inspiring you now? Who's the guiding light? Are there any guiding lights in your life?
There are
That's a personal
so
question,
many
maybe.
guiding lights in my life.
Not a personal question, not meant to be personal, but what about poetry? Who are your mentors?
um, so yeah, like I said, there are so many guiding lights in my life. There are so many people that have made this creativity possible. I came to Wisconsin in, with a partner, and that relationship didn't work out. And there
Hmm.
were so many people here that really surrounded me and gave me all of the community that I could ever want. And so in that, I have found great creative partnership with Milo Lee. She's out of Appleton. She's
Hmm.
also a poet and,
Hmm.
um, you know, creative person. She does a million things. And she's just been a great mentor and friend to me in terms of like encouraging me because she was the first to encourage me with my book.
Okay.
Even before my parents, because I had just flippantly said, "Oh, I'm just gonna publish my poetry so that it's copywritten," and I just had this idea that it would just be a bunch of poems bound, and that was it. And I wasn't planning on moving it or making it into anything. And she was like, "Oh no, like." You could totally self publish and it could
Hmm.
be a thing, and you could do this and you could do that, and it
Great.
was so casual that
Hmm.
it made it seem possible. It seemed like she was saying you can go to Aldi's.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I
That's
was like,
awesome.
wow, okay, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And myself being the poet laureate of North Fond du Lac and named by the library, I've been doing it for 3 years now, and basically through the podcast, communicating with people. But we've had some open mics, and we're doing one in the spring. And I just like the feeling of contributing. Of course, your role is much larger than mine. I don't get paid for mine or anything, but your role is really important in the Green Bay community, which is, I guess we should be honest, is kind of a conservative community. How do you plan on expanding that vision with Green Bay? Any other thoughts on how you're going to expand that?
Yes, as I had said, there are so many, as you refer to them, leading lights
Mm-hmm.
in my life, and those people are the people that I'm going to rely on to help me create more collaborative relationships and to really expand the project out. Um, one of my best friends, Ashley Simone, is also a poet who used to live in Green Bay area, and she really helped me like become more of a poet identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So she really helped me kind of get my feet under me when I would say to people, yeah, I'm a poet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she had a lot of connections in different poetic areas, spaces, creative spaces that, I'll be tapping into. And Ingrid Parker Hill, Diana Debicki are people that work in the Green Bay area public schools that I'll be kind of looking at to help with like our partnership with schools and see if there's ways that we can get into the schools and work with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's so important to work with
Mm-hmm.
kids because, like I said, I had been exposed to poetry when I was a kid, but I never saw myself as a poet. It was
Yeah.
always like, oh, this is that grand person, and all they do is poetry, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just, that's them. They're a poet, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how they look.
Right.
And to be able to go into a different space with my face and the way that I look and be able to show kids that you can look differently or introduce them to poets that look maybe more like them and
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, these are the ways that poets can look across all communities. They can, wear overalls or skinny jeans or, broad rimmed hats or any whatever you can think of. Anybody can be a poet, and poetry is
Mm-hmm.
in all of us.
Right. And you said, I think in what to prep for the interview, I read a couple articles on you, and I think you were quoted as saying that the world needs poetry now more than ever. And of
It
course,
does.
we're not going to talk about the politics in Minneapolis. It's a big mess out there. But in this troubled world, uh, we need this creative expression more than ever, I believe. Would you agree with that?
I do. I do agree with that. It was said yesterday that there's a poetic resistance happening,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be honored to be a part of that. I think that no matter where you stand on any political um, topic, that
Mm-hmm.
we as a people need to love each other
Right.
and we need to care for each other. No matter where you come from, we are all carbon based beings and are
Mm-hmm.
deserving of dignity.
Yes.
And um, I think that poetry is one of those things that can bridge that gap and that can help us to see each other as human. Um, we can be very divided. We can be very on the other side of things. Polarized is the word I'm looking for.
Right. Yep.
But there are certain things that need to be moral mores for us that we can't violate, and one of those is just the dignity and the sanctity of life. And we need to be able to preserve that, and I think preserving it is not only physical safety but
Mm-hmm.
writing it down so that it's passed down and leaving something behind that is important and impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if your poetry is spoken word or if it's, you know, harsh or light about butterflies or resistance and fighting the man. Whatever your poetry is, it's yours, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a piece of you that you leave behind for the rest of the world to see that you were not only here, but that
Mm-hmm.
you did something.
That's perfectly said. Before we go, I know you have a busy schedule. We'll get you back to your poetry marathon. Do you have a quick poem you can share with our viewers?
Yeah. In that vein, I'll actually write something that's not, or I'm sorry, I'll read something that's not from the book.
Okay.
This is something that I wrote recently just to try and give us a little more hope. Maybe the beauty of our journey is in our cracks, the fractured pieces off which light refracts. Maybe that's how the light travels back, bounced around, leaving illuminated paths. Maybe that's the roadmap back to who we were before we shattered. Maybe putting ourselves together again is all that mattered. Maybe when we heal, we lose all that. Sealed wounds and the light gets trapped. Maybe infection dies without a sound. Smooth skin and scars round. Maybe that leaves a million pieces of me on the ground. Maybe who we are now is who is found. Maybe, just maybe, it's surviving that makes us proud.
That is beautiful. And
Thank
you
you.
just wrote that recently.
Yeah, just a few days ago.
That's
It just,
beautiful. Yeah.
the, sometimes the results of horror can be beauty.
Yeah, and then you use this beautiful analogy of the light getting through. I think was it, and I could be wrong, but I think it was Leonard Cohen that said something in one of his lyrics about the light through the cracks getting through.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. Well, it was great to meet you, Green Bay, brand new Green Bay poet laureate Miriam Brabham. The best of luck. And again, your new book is called what?
A Thousand Apologies to Me. It's a collection of poetry, short stories, and reflections.
Fantastic. The best of luck. Well, maybe we can talk to you down the road here, maybe in a year or two, to see how you're doing.
Wonderful. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
All right. Wonderful interview. And there she goes, Miriam Brabham, and a fantastic interview. And she's going to do a great job, I have a feeling, on anything she does. That's another edition of our Poets Have Something to Say. Wonderful to have you with us. And this is actually a special edition of the program. So we'll be back again on February 1st with the former poet in residence at Ripon College, Freesia McKee. We're going to be talking to her on the February 1st, so we're busy. And this is a special edition. I want to leave you with this thought. Poetry is important because it distills truth, emotion, and memory into language that awakens the soul. And it reminds us we're not alone, gives voice to the unspeakable, builds bridges between the hearts across time, culture, and silence. In a world of noise, poetry listens, and it teaches us to listen too. So in these troubled times, grab a poem, read a poem to a friend. It's time, folks. That's another edition of Poets Have Something to Say, special edition with the brand new Green Bay Poet Laureate, Miriam Brabham.